Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, now I just want to focus on my red book and I want to focus on what I'm going to do to the spine. Now I'm having lots of questions about signatures and how I'm going to stitch them into my spine. Now you'll know that the blue stitchery is a advent calendar hanging on bunting but seated on a concertina style page layout. So where I've just concertinaed the fabric, Rachel's doing a similar sort of scenario. So it's just a big piece, it's all concertinaed and my pages sit in between the folds. This one is a bit different. There are actual signatures. Now, I'll show you this in a minute. So I've been busy finishing each signature. And what a signature was for me was a rectangular piece of fabric. Let me come up a little bit so you can get an overall view of this. A rectangular piece of fabric that I folded in half, and I got two of them, which I then put a little running stitch through the center at that fold. So that created my signature. Now, as the months have rolled on, any stitched piece that I've created has been tacked down onto the position I want it within the signature. And then because I'm using this journal to house some lace from my family, I've then been stitching lace in amongst it as well. Where if you guys aren't doing this sort of scenario, you would have another stitchery here, another one here, and another one here. So 4 stitcheries would fit on one signature. Does that make sense? Now, being that the Santa prompt is this latest one, and I had used Santa in the previous prompt before the owl Christmas image, I sort of have already covered off on the Santa, and because I had such a crazy week with the break-in, I sort of only did the one stitchery, which is in the blue book, and the blue book now has a Santa. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is both stitcheries, my blue and my red, have a Santa image. So I've actually skipped doing a piece for the red book for the prompt Santa. Does that make sense? It does, sort of. So what I've done for this week's stitching is I've worked on the maintenance, getting it ready for the joining it together. So that's what this video is all about. And I'm starting to get lots of questions about how you're going to stitch this together, what you're thinking for your spine, are you still going to do tabs? So I thought, well, being that I'm not doing an actual embroidery, I'm going to move this along a little bit further because, you know, Christmas is coming, and before we know it, we're going to be into December and there's still so much work here. So what I've done is, let's just put this out of the way. I've finished the signatures to date. So Santa got stitched down, the lace got stitched down. I found some additional pieces. I think I said in the last video I need to go hunting because I'm sure there was more. This one here was one of those, and then I wrapped it around, and I just love how that worked. Like, that gave me an idea for future journals that a doily could sit in a top corner and then go over the page, which I thought was just gorgeous. The candy is finished with some lace. The Christmas tree, which is upside down, so that means that has to go like that, is finished. So that signature's done. The bird signature is done. The lace inside there. Remember the doily with the holes that a great great aunt had repaired, so that's now got a home. This one here's got a home. I have a spare. Now that's because I'm not doing a stitchery this week, so I'm not too concerned because we've still got 2 prompts and maybe they inspire me to do an extra stitchery, so I'm not really too worried about that. So I've got still a blank panel that can be decorated with something if something catches my eye in the next prompt. So that will go there. Might as well pin it. And I did purchase a piece of fabric a couple of weeks ago. I saw it with Vintage Blend Studios. Susanna highlighted that this fabric was out and about. It's a Kathy Holden panel. And when it had arrived, I thought, oh boy, there has to be something here I could work into my stitchery. So I'm just going to sit on it for a moment. I really love that music piece. A lot of it has colours that aren't in this journal, so I can't go too crazy because I'm reds. So there's probably not a lot here on reflection, but I love that. And I love the music. So my missing panel could be that. And I'm thinking it might. Anyway, I'll think about it. I'm sort of getting a million ideas dropping into my brain. Okay, put it away. That's not why I'm here today for this video. Getting sidetracked. So snowman signature is done with the little soldier, and the village is done. I had an extra panel I made, the nativity, that's now attached to the back cover. What was I going to say about this? Pretty much it's got a flap here so that I can put a tab spine treatment in, and then that will go down, which was going to talk about more in a moment. So now we still have 2 prompts to go, which meant I had to make another signature. So let me just get this all out of the way. So there's the reindeer prompt. See, once again, that's got space there to tuck in the tab spine, which I'm definitely going to do. So that can be used or not, or so I've got lots of options that I can do. And then I've got my piece for the front, which is what I said in my last video I was actually going to attach, but I decided just to hold the horses a bit and work on this spine. So we'll come back to that in a second. Now, being that I needed to create an extra signature and I had extra pieces of lace kicking around, I've gone and torn, like I said, a piece of rectangular fabric, folded it in half to get my center, and I've pinned down my doily. That'll be stitched on, and because these are 2 pieces, I can get my hand in there, stitch this all down, and then I can join them to hide all my stitching. So that's the principle of my signatures. So if you're sitting at home and you've got heaps of panels and you don't know yet how you're going to form them into the book, this is one suggestion for you. Let's pretend that's a panel and that's a panel. You would then tear yourself a piece of fabric that's slightly bigger than your embroidery, hence the big rectangle. I'm using 2. You don't have to, but I'm using 2 because I like the feel of the 2 plus then the stitcheries on top, so it really feels quite textured. If you wanted to decrease bulk because you're putting it into a book that already has a spine, you might only want to use the 1 sheet. So stitchery on here and a stitchery on here and you're done. But I'm using the 2, and I've put a little running stitch down the fold just to keep it together. And if I open that up there, you will see that little stitch down the center holding my 2 rectangles together to start forming my signature. Okay, so this is my last signature. So I'm getting my doily stitched into place. You can see I've pinned. That's going to be blank because that's going to be the next prompt. So let's just pop a pin there so we know that he's got a home. Now, each week the girls have given us some additional projects that we can also stitch. Envelope, tab, tag, pocket. Now, I haven't done much with any of them because I sort of want to wait till I got to the end. This page here I think is going to be another stitchery because I've got a stain on this doily right here. So I'm going to actually, when we get our last final prompt, I'm going to put it here so that I hide that stain. It'll be underneath. So that's the theory there. So there's my stitching from, you know, attaching it hidden, and then that sandwiches together. And this is the last area that I have a chance to do something with. So I have a doily here that needs a home. So he's going into this position. And I have this second doily, which is a real beauty. Look at her. I know there is a name for this type of work, but it eludes me. And I thought I might be able to make a pocket out of it because he's so big, like it hangs out of my book. So what I'm going to do, this doily underneath is Classic Pineapple. That's the pattern name. It's everywhere. So I'm not too worried that it gets a little bit covered. I do love that he's there. That might even be able to sneak around there and join the piece that's going to be on the other side. That'd be pretty cool. So I'm going to let that just hang out a little bit. Might even hang a little bit more out. What the hang? And this guy is going to form a pocket. That way I can fold it up and get it into position to create a pocket for a tag. Now my first thought was I did a tag, it was my magic key, but I really plan to use that on the spine. That's him there. And I've even got it prepped ready to go with a little brad to pin it onto the spine so that it'll be a dangle on the outside of the book. So that is still going to happen. So because I'm filming ahead some projects for Christmas, December, one of the projects, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned a little bit about it. If I haven't, you're getting a sneak peek of a small series coming in December where I'm sure I've mentioned this. If I haven't, okay, you're getting a real sneak peek now. Won't show you too much because it'll spoil the surprise. Now Rachel has released a new kit of tags that are really quite large. You get, from memory, 3 on the page. They're fantastic for a space to embroider. So my little series is using Rachel's tags, which I've backed onto some cardstock, so they're nice and strong, and using the principles that I learnt in the Anne Brooks 52 tag project, which most of you did as well. I've been creating some tags out of fabric that are going to be attached to Rachel's images. So the plan is, I'll just grab one for now. I won't show you much in that little box because I don't want to spoil the surprise and I'll get sidetracked. So this is one of the prepared tags where I've just laid down the base. And it's the same as what we're doing with the Stitchery project. We just stitched down all of our background fabrics, and in this case it's the shape of a tag that I have drawn around Rachel's tag with my pen, and then within that boundary attached morsels of bits and pieces that are left over. So I've laid down vintage fabrics, vintage laces, and a little bit of music. So where I'm heading with this, if you're wondering what the hang I'm doing, is As you know, this snowflake, crocheted by my friend, has been popping up in the Advent Calendar Blue Book. So I thought, I haven't got any in this. This is an opportunity to add one and a pocket. So you can see where I'm heading. So the plan is I've pinched this from the project that I'm pre-recording for December, and it's now joining in here. And I'm thinking I'm going to put this snowflake on this tag and then embellish it with some beads. So that's pretty simple, and it's following along the lines of the blue blue book. So that's going to go onto there. So now I have Marianne's snowflakes in amongst my bits, nice and textured, and I'll do some beading and, you know, jazzy that up. I will select a tag from Rachel's collection. Let me have a little look. Let's do that before one of those disappears. That sort of suits my book. Oh, some beautiful designs here, Rachel. Oh, I don't mind Santy. Oh, the church. Some of them are missing from the range because they've already been attached to the back. I like the tree too. Birds, no. Santa, no. I've already got a tree. I'm going to do the church. And the snowflake sort of fits with that image because it's a snow scene. Okay, where's the little box gone? And because I'm pre-recording this little project of fabric tags on Rachel's tags, I've pinned a couple snowflakes in position, and that's going to give me some more tags. I'm going to use these tags as gifts for some friends and family, and I'm creating a pocket between Rachel's tag and my tag that I can tuck in a gift. So that's the whole series that's coming up. And I'm also involved in a tag swap. So I've got a lady's name been given to me that I need to send a tag to, which I've just shot off in the mail. So that's coming as well, all in this series that's going to air in December. Anyway, back to November, and this is the plan for this pocket. So that will go on there. I will embellish it, and then I will be able to slide that into there as my pocket on this page, and it sort of helps me get rid of this huge runner. So that's the project here that I wanted to show you. And I'd be thinking that that pineapple crochet would look awesome coming around that corner and joining into whatever that prompt is here. So I'm just going to write a little note to myself, and I'm going to put an arrow and put pineapple. So when we get one of the next two prompts, whatever I do, that's going to tell me that this pineapple crochet is going to join into this particular prompt. So, but in the meantime, I can stitch that down. I can stitch all this together. I can have a play with this. So the second week is not so much going to be a prompt using a Santa, like I've already got one. It's going to be preparing my book a little more. Okay, so let's talk about spine, because I've made some critical decisions about my spine. Now that I have all of my signatures formed, bar 3 going in to create a little bit extra bulk, which we haven't got the prompts for yet. I now have a better feeling for what thickness my spine needs to be. So, popping a ruler here, I can see that 3 inches would be plenty. So that's going from there, and there's the 3 inches. Plenty. So I've got still 1/2 inch of embroidery pieces, and remember I have 3 spaces, and I might even add more doilies yet, but I've got space. So the plan is to do a tab spine, but I've worked out the design. Where am I going to put everything? Okay, put that down there. Tab spines. This is the tab spine that I did on one of the volumes earlier in the year. Little tabs embellished, and then they're tucked in under the front panel and the inside panel so that they become where I stitch in my pieces. Okay, easy. The Christmas tab is going to be 1 whole piece instead of 3, which was my plan when you first start watching me in this series. I've decided I'm going to do a full panel. Now, let's talk this through, and this will make sure that I'm on the right track with this. I've torn myself 2 pieces of fabric that are the height of my journal. So where's my cover? So they're the height of the cover. So I'm thinking that's the correct thing to do. And in my case, that is 10 3/4. Okay. I can always trim it at a later date if it's not needed, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be needed. Now, being that my key has a brad and it's going to feature on my spine, it needs to go through one of them like so. Let's just stick it in there. That will spread open on the other side, and that's how this is being attached to the spine of my journal. This piece needs to be embellished. So the plan is to embroider, something here, which will be seen as it sits into my bookshelf. And of course my Santa tag hanging on the outside of it as my dingle dangle, or my, decorative piece. So that's pretty straightforward, and I have an idea for it using sari silk. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, the second piece is going to make my floating spine that I stitch all of my signatures to. Now, I have 5 signatures. Let me just check that in case my maths is wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, good. I know that my spine needs to be 3 inches. So I've drawn a line on my outer decorative piece, and that gives me my boundaries which I can stitch in. This excess, which is about 1 inch, will tuck in everywhere to secure itself. Does that make sense? So that will be glued in there. Then finally I can put my piece into position. I then grab my back panel. Let's move this up. And we've got that there. So, and my little embroidery gives me that opportunity once again to go in there, but in this case it'll be on the back like so. And I don't have a piece going on here, so that will be seen, and I like how that looks, so that's good. And that's where my next stitching thing will happen in here, which we'll go on to. So let's assume that that's attached, and I'm going to lay this back down, and we're going to pretend that that is attached like so. So now we have one of the tabs in position. Okay, So the second tab, let's just shunt this up a little bit so we can see what we're doing. The second one, what did I do with it? Oh, goodness me. What did I just do with it? Here it is. Oh, goodness. Okay. That's attached. That's tucked in there. And attached, all nice and straight. I'll leave it for a day to dry before I do anything else, and that would have been embroidered and look gorgeous on the outside. And of course then our little thingamajiggy is coming through there. So now we need to cover the inside. Now the inside panel is going to have my signatures stitched into it. So once again, I'm starting to mark it out. We have the 3-inch gap that we know we need. I've then gone and drawn some lines, but before I did, I folded it in half to help me with those lines, and I went with the red pen and drew straight down the center. So that's one signature, and now we have 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 2 lines on the outside is just to tell me the 3-inch gap that I need to have. So what I've done is from the center, I've come out 1/2 inch and put a dot, another 1/2 inch and put a dot, and that extra 1/2 inch is just a little bit of air for everything sort of to sit within, because that line is going to be that edge. Does this make sense? I hope it makes sense. So what I will then do is, using all my little dots and my pen, I'm now going to put some lines into position to mark those signatures. It'll be very fiddly to do, but take your time. It'll be worth it. It really, really will. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably stitch most of them in and then leave one to show you guys. I won't do it today. I'm just sort of prepping, making sure this is where I want to go with it. So if I do a little wriggle on there, we know that that's not signature lines needed. That's just the boundary of my space. Let me zoom in so you can see what I just did. So that's the boundaries, but they're the actual signatures, all 5 of them. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to mark 1.5 inches from the top. That's a stitch entry point, and 1.5 inches from the bottom. I do this with journals too. And I'm going to put a line across the area where my signatures are going to be stitched. Okay, so now I could get my iron and just eliminate all of that and all of that, because that's where my needle will go in. Oh, you can't even see, bring it up. Sorry guys. So I've come down from the top, which is the book height, 1.5 inches, and I've put a line through here, and I've done the same on the bottom. I'll just come up a little bit more. So what I was about to say is I could get my iron now and make that red disappear here and here, so that I know exactly, you know, where my stitch points are. So the gap in the middle, lovely for maths reason, is 8 inches. So that means that that is the center. So let's just do some lines through here. Now you don't need to be as precise as this. It's very forgiving, but it may help you, you know, work out where you're heading, because once you start flipping and flopping signatures around, it really does get a little bit confusing. So I'm just putting some little X's there just to show you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signatures. And my needle will go in there, come up here, go back in, come back up here, and come back down to here. Now that's just one way you could stitch them in. If you feel your page is swinging a little bit, there's nothing stopping you putting another line here and another line here so that you have more stitching holding your signatures into position. Now, let's grab a signature. Let's grab Santa. So what I would do next is lay Santa on the cover so we know he's sitting within the boundaries of the book. We've got a little marked stitch line here from when I folded the original piece in half, so that tells me a center point. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to mark with my little pen a dot there, and a dot there, and a dot there. So when I'm coming back through, I know where that needle needs to go because I've just given myself 3 little dots according to that. So what I'm going to do now is turn this the other way, find that little stitch line that marks my halfway, line it back up, and then just peeking in here like it's a bit of a guide only. I'm just going to put another little dot in that zone, so if I do lose my way, I've got a rough area to aim for with my needle. I'm just going to have a little look there. That really looks good. So now my spine tells me where to go. My embroidery signature has some marks, so it should come together pretty easily. The main thing too to remember is don't put too much tension on that stitching because you know, everything can pull and move a little bit. Now you could, if you wanted, put some cardboard through here just to give it a little bit of structure, which I might do too. I just haven't got to that point in my brain. I do want a very soft spine, so I don't sort of want to have the feeling of cardboard in there, I don't think, but it might need it. I'm really not sure. I have to think about that. So this piece now can have the signatures attached to it, which then would lie back down in here, and that would lift and be glued, and this little guy can be lifted and glued in as well. And that's how my tab will tuck in under my embroidery pieces, top and bottom. And of course that one's there. So that's the plan. That's the decision. Like I said before, you could cut this piece into 3 so that when you look into the spine of your journal, for example, this one, you can see the folds of all of those signatures. So just another way of doing it. Now, I'm happy with that. We have a plan. So that's my homework. I'm going to stitch the signatures onto this. And I don't need any of this at the moment. Now let's talk about, oh gosh, you got to make sure everything's going to be up the right way too. So, oh boy, it's fraught with danger, isn't it? So I've got plenty of homework to do on that. This is my panel that's going to be visible on the spine. Of course, my little house is going to be attached to that. So what I'm thinking of doing now, I'm thinking of laying down sari silk. I haven't done this before. Now I'm looking for a book. Here we go. Hang on 1 second. My new favourite book, Tilly Rose. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And there's something I spotted in here that just sent my brain into a frenzy. That. And what Tilly's done there is she's just layered down lots of textiles. Hasn't thought too much about positioning of the base textiles, and then she's embroidered on top, and then she's added beads and buttons and things like that. And it's just made, excuse me, it's made the most beautiful treatment for the spine of this journal. I don't know if there's, you can't see it there. There's a little bit more of it. How yummy is that? Oh, I just can't put this book down. Like, it's just, Anyway, that is the idea that come to me for my spine. And it suits because I just need something simple there. I don't need any embroidery. I don't need any delicate stuff. I just need a base to cover this. So I went to my cupboard and I pulled out all of these sari silks that I've got, and the plan is to just lay them down. So I don't have a lot of pins at the moment because I've got so much stuff pinned, but you'll get the general gist of what I'm thinking. I'm going to have a go at just filling this 3-inch gap with textiles from the sari silk world. Oh, I know what I've got that I haven't looked at yet is I've got a boho pack of trims that I bought 12 months ago. I bet there's nothing red in there, but maybe I should have a little nosy in that little box of goodies. I don't even know where I put it. This may not be anything in there. But you can see what this is going to be like. It's just, I'm just going to keep laying down. I love these ones that are dyed because there's lots of colour within that. And then I think all Tilly does is just start stitching it. Just stitch, stitch, layer upon layer upon layer. I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, but I'm loving the effect. And I love the fact that this sari silk is actually giving me a feeling of lusciousness as well. Is that even a word? There's a dusty pink one here. Let's get that in there. All these threads. I can't decide if I like sari silk. Well, I like sari silk, don't get me wrong, but when I use it as a tie, it might be just the stuff I've bought here. It's come from an Etsy store when I first got into journals and everyone was laying down sari silk as ties around journals. I thought, oh, I wonder what that's all about. So I've ordered these little packs from goodness knows where. And yes, it's joined. You give that a tug and it breaks. So that was my first, I'm not sure if I like that. But I understand there's scraps that they've joined together. So I've since done a little bit of reinforcing whenever I've put it on a journal, because sometimes you go to tie the journal shut and it's already starting to sort of pull apart, which I wasn't real impressed with. But I have worked out that there's a lot of fibres and fraying, which I don't mind too much, I guess. Don't like that dusty pink one. Feels like I'm heading away from the colour scheme. So I just don't know. It frays like anything. It drives me nuts with threads, but I guess that's a look. Yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts, guys? It's everywhere on journals. We all use it, refer to it. So it's certainly an industry element to our journals. I just can't decide if it certainly makes me feel more free with my embroidery when there's lots of threads and bits and pieces hanging everywhere, and sari silk certainly gives you that. So there we go. I've laid down in that 3-inch gap lots of sari silk. I don't have many pins, but I might be able to use this big guy to at least pin it a little bit. So I think with lots of stitches and French knots and beads and buttons, I'm just going to build up on that, and it's going to make quite a nice textured spine treatment, and then this here can hang on it. So that's the thought. Okay, I guess in amongst that, I could probably then even revisit the lace bucket. I'm always in the lace bucket. And see if there's anything interesting in here that could be, you can't see my lace bucket. Everything in here is a little bit modern for my liking. I might need to go further afoot and try and find some old crocheted lace. So this is all modern. Yeah. And then stitch bits of lace through it as well. Could also help build up my layers and things like that. But anyway, I think what I'll do in the meantime is just get this nestled in here. This is, you know, stitched and held into position. So, okay, everyone, that's my video. That's my plan. I think that's all I wanted to go through. Yeah, okay. Everyone, I hope you're having a great weekend and have some exciting adventures to go on. If not, on the couch, stitching, which is an exciting adventure in itself, isn't it? Another piece, why not? Can't help myself. Anyway, let's just put down the scissors, tidy up my mess that I have here, and I can start stitching this. I can stitch some signatures onto that spine, which we've nutted out now. Pretty happy that the math is correct on that. I've also got the last signature to prep with some more doily work, and the snowflake tag can be created, and then I'm ready for the following week when we get our last prompt, and then the one after that will be it. That's our last two, and I've got space there. Plus I still have one up my sleeve. If I'm so inspired, I can do another stitchery. All right, I think that's it. I will leave you all in peace and enjoy your week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.